To tackle the burning question, should Illinois treat pot like booze? We have a pretty good panel, and it starts with James Mendrick. He's a 22-year veteran of the DuPage County Sheriff's Office, now running for sheriff. Also joining us, Southside State Representative Christian Mitchell, who wants to legalize pot, and he wants also to include some things aimed at jobs. Also, Gary Grasso, an attorney, a member of the DuPage County Board, who's now running for Attorney General of Illinois. State Representative, what are the reasons you favor legalizing marijuana, and the job things that you want to include, or what?
Well, a couple things. One, this is an issue whose time has come. I think everyone knows that marijuana is not, despite what some would say, a gateway drug, that it is a chance potentially for the state to make $350 to $700 million in revenue every single year. But also there is a chance here to make sure that those who have historically been over-policed with regard to marijuana have a chance at ownership, have a chance at jobs, have a chance at being productive citizens and employing others. And I think this is an issue whose time has come, and it's the right thing to do for the state, the right thing to do for our families, the right thing to do for criminal justice.
Now, Commander Mendrick, when we were talking earlier, you do think it may be a gateway drug.
Well, I think beyond that, I'm really not a legislator. My concern is more of safety. Where they have legalized it, Colorado, for example, their traffic accidents are 16% higher. And my concern is for enforcement of drug DUIs. I think we can all agree that we don't want people driving high. And there is a 3-hour period where there is a danger. There's depth perception issues.
So can you test it? Is there a breathalyzer for pot the way there is for alcohol?
A lot of these things right now, it's going to be based on blood samples, saliva samples, bodily fluids. Most of them have to be obtained voluntarily, and it's very hard to detect if you've had it 30 minutes ago or 30 days ago. And that's the problem that I have, is that it's going to be very hard to enforce.
So Gary Grasso, on the DuPage County Board, you're a voice against legalizing.
Yes, I am at this time, Mike, because we have too many other problems in the state, opioid and heroin issues being a problem. We're a state that's broken. We don't need another area of regulation.
But Gary, can I ask you, I think if we went to most high schools in DuPage County, and if we asked a 10th grader or an 11th grader, can you tell me where I could get some pot? I think she'd be able to tell us, yeah, right over here.
Well, that may be true, but that's not the argument for legalization. There are too many other problems. And let's do a referendum. I like the idea of a referendum.
So Cook County does have a referendum.
Cook County does. I understand the Senate just
on the March 20th primary.
Right. But for November, I believe the Senate, and it's maybe over at the House right now, are trying to put it on for November.
Well, a couple of things. One, look, first of all, some of the money would be set aside for actually improving the breathalyzer exams. It's actually in the bill that Kelly Cassidy and Heather Staines are carrying right now. Second, we don't have a referendum, but we do have polling on this. I think the Paul Simon Institute said this was at 66% around the state of Illinois. And I think
70% in the Chicago
70% in the Chicagoland area. But I also think, could it be, is this a substance that needs regulation? It is, which is why we should do it. But is it more dangerous than alcohol or tobacco? I would say the answer to those questions is no. And both of those are legal. Both of those are highly regulated. And we're looking at a potential to get the illegal market off the streets, have young kids not interacting with drug dealers. I think that's a worthwhile.
Representative, let me ask you. So Sheriff candidate Mendrick over there makes a point about you'd have to get bodily fluids. It's not like a breathalyzer, and it's hard to tell just how much pot you've had. Mm-hmm. And he says Colorado, 16% increase in car crashes.
And there's another thing too that we would, if it did go through, we'd want to make sure that we're not making the taxpayer's dime any larger on this also, because you need a drug recognition expert now. The court has said that that's what you need to make the case, and that's an hour-and-a-half long process with the suspect of a DUI.
Representative?
Well, a correlation causation. I don't know if the 16% is directly related to marijuana. I'd be interested to see that study, and I'm open to that. But I also think that there's also market forces involved here. So if we are legalizing this drug, there is going to be a demand for the private sector and others to step in and help us develop a more rapid response test. And I think that considering we did that with breathalyzers for alcohol, this is entirely within the realm.
It's pretty logical, Gary.
Yeah, well, I understand that, hence a referendum, but there are other issues here too, Mike.
So you'd respect a referendum, a statewide referendum's result?
I'm a lawyer. I respect the voice of the people. Absolutely.
So if an advisory referendum says let's legalize it, you change your position?
As a legislator and as a community leader, of course, you respond to your constituency. If the state says that's what they want, of course, you don't get in their way. But let me make another point on this. I do know, just by happenstance, the mayor in Denver, and I've spoken to him about this issue. The other big issue here is banking and how you even bank the proceeds, how you give out paychecks to those who are working. They have large areas where they're just putting money in vaults in the businesses. Ordinary people that are working in the industry in Colorado, even now.
And I think that's obviously because of the federal issue, right? But I think that, again, solvable problem, right? If we are saying this is a path we want to go down, we think this is historically discriminated against black and brown communities and in a way that has overpopulated our jails. We know that kids are doing it anyway. We know that it's not as lethal as alcohol or tobacco. Let's do this. I think that those other things sort of fill themselves in. We're also taking a very deliberative process on this in the legislature. Kelly Cassidy, Heather Staines are running a series of hearings. I helped chair one as the chair on economic opportunity. We're willing to put in the time to figure out the best way to do this that's safest. But I do think that getting to a place where we're saying this needs to happen is important.
All right, James Mendrick, $350 to $700 million, says Representative Mitchell. That's a pretty powerful argument in a state that needs money.
Oh, and it will cost the taxpayers money for us to be trained and protect for the safety-related issues on this, too. I think that should be built in, too. I don't think the taxpayers of DuPage County, especially from where I'm from, should take the burden for profit to be created somewhere else.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Excellent panel. Great discussion. There's a lot of hidden issues here that perhaps most folks haven't yet considered.